Well, guys, this is a very important video for us to do because it's something that's near and dear to our hearts. And it's our story of how we acquired the land and how we got here and what we had to go through in order to get here, the sacrifices that we made and the things that we had to give up. But there's also the rewards as well. We're going to talk about those and share those with you.
How did we start our journey? Well, for me, I think it was something I always had from way back when I was younger. I always enjoyed going out, like from the city with the family, out in the country, picnics, hikes, camping, and all that sort of thing. And as I got older, I was just more drawn to go out to the country. And then I met Glenn. His family, they were the people that did the camping every weekend and all that exciting stuff that I would have liked to do more of.
When we lived in the city, we wanted freedom from all the rules, the regulations, the restrictions. And we wanted the freedom to be able to choose our own lifestyle, to determine what direction that we want to go. That was a lifestyle that we felt worthwhile pursuing. It's not for everyone. And there are certainly lots of advantages and conveniences of living in the city. And we understand that. But for us, we had a yearning and we wanted to make that change. Simply put, we wanted to get as far away from those influences as we could.
I didn't mind living in the city. I thought, it was okay. I enjoyed it. I had a social life and I enjoyed all the conveniences and all that. But I really felt I wanted to live out in the country. So the decision for me was quite easy. When we had the opportunity to move out of the city and move to a rural area, it was actually just an invite to go watch the land for Glenn's parents as they were building the cottage. So it was a perfect opportunity of everything falling into place. But I was giving up so much in the city, but to me it was worth it to go to where we were going as a stepping stone.
She was the city girl. I was a city boy.
I found out years later that I was the city girl that they all talked about, that I was the one that they figured would go back to the city, that I didn't have it to live in the country area.
Back to the city, she'll go. That's what they probably said. Give her a year, she'll be gone. The mosquitoes will drive her out. Okay, so way back when? How did you feel when you didn't have any land? You didn't even know what raw land was. So before that,
The idea of people owning land and having, like, being able to own 100 acres or a chunk of the forest or anything other than a cottage, I had no idea about any of that. I just wanted to not live in the city.
why did you not want to live in the city? What was the drive, the push, the pull? What was that?
Even though I enjoyed living in the city, there was something that the things I didn't enjoy, there was violence, it was crowded, there was fear of walking around at night, just all those underlying things that were just part of being in the city, I didn't like. And all the memories I had of being in the country were always positive and nice and comforting and serene.
From my perspective, after years of dreaming, enjoying nature, going out with the family and camping and canoeing, when I was exposed to nature, out in nature, hiking, I felt more comfortable there as time went on and less at ease in the big city where we had lived for 20 years. And I noticed that I became more restless, more unsettled, and I felt that there was a deep yearning, a void. Something was missing. As time went on, through my teen years, while enjoying all the luxuries of the city that the city offers, and all the going to concerts and all the stuff that young kids like to do, it wasn't the noise of the city. It wasn't the traffic that pushed me away. It wasn't the crime rate. It wasn't the negatives and whatnot. It was more of a pull. Nature was calling me. The forests were calling me. It was more of just a deep yearning that was unshakable, and it was always with me. That's what pulled me towards wanting to be closer to nature. There's a lot of positives and conveniences that one can get from the city, but for me, I just felt that I was being slowly crushed. It just sucked the life out of me. It drained my spirit. I always just felt more at home and more at ease when I went out into the forest. And that's where I knew I wanted to be. And after meeting Maureen, we went camping even more and went on lots of hikes and that kind of thing. We grew our life together and we started to plan to be closer to nature. That's when we made the move. Finally, after going overseas, went to Morocco and first time seeing mountains and the ocean. And we camped and hitchhiked all around that country for full 4 months. Once that had happened, we had basically sold all of our belongings to travel overseas when we were around 20 years old. And when we came back to basically nothing. We were starting over. So we had our backpack and a couple bicycles and we moved. So we spent our time for the full summer helping my parents get settled into their cottage site, ready to build. And that was our stepping stone to move to a small town, Ontario, and then finally buying this property here.
It's interesting, the idea of giving up. Like, what did we give up? To me, it wasn't really like giving up because I had to do without things. I had to get used to doing without things, but I was getting something that I wanted, which overpowered the giving up things.
So it's like trading.
So it's like trading.
Ah.
Yeah. Do you want this lifestyle or do you want that lifestyle? Well, my lifestyle up here, this is my lifestyle. I love it. I don't know what else I could say more than to say I love it. Like being here. Yeah, there's difficulties in being here. Like there's a lot of struggles. Like there's been a lot of challenges that we've had to come over, and they're like challenges where it just comes up and then you have to figure it out.
Why do you love it though?
Because we can walk outside the cabin.
Oh.
I'm starting to cry.
Okay, it's cry. Go ahead. It's okay. Why do you love it?
Probably because of the peace and quiet.
It's okay. You got me going too.
And you know what? There's a freedom. There's a freedom in it. There's which I think a lot of people would probably agree once they know what it's like. There's a freedom that you can choose what you do. Like, because we live here and we've become accustomed to this. Well, we've been here now 9 years. And all the struggles that we made and we've accomplished getting through is that we have the freedom now that we can come here, we can just go outside and we can sit and do nothing, right? We can relax and enjoy what we have. Like, it wasn't easy coming here, but it's worth everything we've done to get here. I think probably the only regret I would have is a distance from family.
So getting back to the journey, way back, we made an initial move from the city and found jobs in the small town. From that point, we kind of used that as our stepping stone since we were now in the geography that we wanted to be in, which was, being close to the forest, close to nature. That was a good stepping stone.
We put down roots. We had a family. We got good jobs. We had a career. We started a business. And we developed our life in that community for a good 20 years. And then we just started thinking about moving out of the town to move to a more rural area.
So from the city to small town Ontario, and then from the small town to remote wilderness living.
Our move to the remote wilderness, it took a while because having a family, having children, living remotely just was not a good choice. Plus, having a business, we needed to be closer to the community. So, for a lot of reasons, we had to wait before we could move to a remote area. But all during the time of doing what we were doing back then, we were working towards moving to somewhere remote. Like, where would we want to live, what we were going to do.
We had a book where we had goals. We kept the book for all of our appointments and whatnot, that we were doing research on how to buy land. And, we used that book for planning purposes and stuck to it, right? It was kind of an important little thing that we did along the way.
Yeah, that included things like notes of areas, say areas, country roads that we traveled down, areas that we thought, no, these are not suitable, areas that were suitable. Those notes, those all became the help years down the road. So for me, how we got here, when it was starting to be time, 5, 6, 7 years away from retirement, we thought, are we staying where we are, or are we going to move to the place where we want to be? So we started looking for land. Do we want to live on a lake? Do we want to live on a river? Do we not want to be on water? All those things we started taking into consideration. And a lot of that got answered just by traveling around and doing what we did, like the canoeing and the camping. We enjoyed the journey on the way. So coming here, the first thing that we did was we decided what geographic area do we really want to live in? What village or town? How far from the city? What are the criteria that we had, what my wants and needs were, and what Glenn's wants and needs were, and what ours were together, so that we knew what we were looking for. And some areas just weren't suitable for us to live in, so we stayed away from those when we started looking for properties. And that really, really helped in looking at real estate listings, classified ads. Is it worth it to go and look at that area, that property? If it wasn't in an area that we wanted to look in, then it just saved us a lot of time not even going. Doing that, it really started to hone what we didn't want. It was almost more important than what we did want, because what we did want was very specific, right? And what we didn't want, well, there's all kinds of things. Don't want to be close to the highway, don't want to hear the trains, don't want to be near an airport. That was a big thing for us, right? Because there were some really nice areas that we saw to look in, but you look on the map and there's an airport.
With the train tracks going by as well. So
yeah, we had the area honed down pretty tight to where we wanted to be. I think
the reason why that was so important to us, not to be near an airport or train tracks, for some people, that's not a problem at all. They get used to the trains, and maybe they even like the sound of the train coming through. For me personally, and Maureen as well, we did a lot of nature field recording with our audio recorders, and we would put those out. We'd be going on canoe trips, and we would enjoy recording the pristine soundscapes that was devoid of any background rumble, noise, trains. To me, very, very important. I wanted to be at least 25 miles from any train tracks. So that kind of made a circumference for us of narrow down the scope, because there was trains to the east of us, there was train tracks to the west of us, and there was quite a swath in between. But so that's where we started looking. I think the only reason why we found this area and this particular property was through Maureen's knowledge and experience. Through her work, we found out what an unorganized township was compared to an organized municipality, that there were less rules and restrictions and less taxes, less administration and all that. And for us, that sounded like a good fit. I wanted to have the freedom to be able to pee off my front deck if I wanted to. I wanted to be able to walk down the lane in my boxers with my boots on and a hat. Nothing but a hat, boots, and my boxers, and on a hot summer day. I wanted the freedom to be able to do that. Nobody to tell me I couldn't. I have. The boxer part, anyway.
So we started seriously looking at properties. We decided rather than bothering a real estate agent and going to all these different properties, we would just do drive-bys, check the neighborhood out, check the property. We were trying to find a homestead with a house and all the infrastructure all set up, but we never really found anything that was suitable for us. It just never seemed to come out. So we thought, okay, we'll start looking at buying land and building, which neither of us really wanted to do. It would have been nice if we could have just moved into something.
But we had to look at our options.
So we kept looking. And then we came across the property that we have now. It has pretty well everything that I wanted for a piece of land.
It already had a laneway in right up here to where our cabin site is.
We came up with a price that we felt was a good price and offered. Knowing that we were moving to this new property made it all worth it.
How did it feel when you found out our offer was accepted?
When the real estate agent phoned us and told us that the offer was accepted for this new property, it was like, wow, we did it. Like, we got it. Like, it was a little bit of fear, you're going into the unknown, something new. Like, this was like really new because it was more remote. But I was really excited. You?
I almost couldn't believe it. Like, I was just absolutely overwhelmed with emotion.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. And then it was, we got to move. Like, we got to sell. And it was like, oh. So we acquired this property. It was time to sell the house. We contacted a real estate agent. That was kind of emotional because we had lived there for 20 years. And walking through the property was 3 acres. It had a forest in it. The kids had their little play areas. And there was a lot giving that up. The community that we lived in, the friends and the neighbors that we had developed friendships with, all that was going to be gone, right? Like, not gone, but we were going to be moving to another community. It was a lot.
It was.
Right? And while we were doing that, we were trying to sell the other property and get it cleaned out. And we had decided that we were going to be moving from a house that was about 2,300 square feet down to a house that was about 1,000 square feet. So we had to get rid of a lot of stuff.
40 years worth of stuff that, okay, what do we thin out here? I said to Maureen, let's get one storage unit. Anything else is not going to be able to come along with us. You can empty out, half of it and all the rest gone. Make some decisions. And then after she did that, we still had too much stuff. So she had to basically go through and half it all down again.
It wasn't just me.
Oh, I got rid of a lot of my stuff too. There was you're right. Yeah, we had to go through a lot of downsizing.
I'm really glad that Glenn had said, let's get everything cleaned out, one storage unit, because it alleviated, I'm sure, a lot of stress after the move, right?
Well, we had to sell our house and we were going to move to a piece of land that there's no house on. And it's getting towards the mid half of summer.
Our lawyer warned us. He said they have to have that done by a certain date for you to get the title to match when you're selling a house. Like, there was a date that we wanted. Hi guys, I just have to jump in here for a sec to clarify and emphasize this 40-acre property had to be severed first. It was part of a severance from a 200-acre parcel, and the realtor had assured us that it would be legally finalized before our closing date. So a real crunch came in because we told the realtor that was all in the offer. Oh yeah, no problem. It's all good. Hey, remember?
Yeah.
So we proceeded with selling the house. We got the closing date. We went through quite a few offers. That was pretty stressful. And because we had the conditions of selling our house to get this one was in the offer.
And that was only a few weeks before Maureen was about to retire.
Yeah.
After 30 years.
It was like pretty exciting, right? Like major changes in our life happening. And then the big bam from the realtor for this property. The stuff didn't get registered in time for our lawyer to do the transaction for us to buy this land. The seller's lawyer had delayed it. So the day that closing for our last house, signed the papers, we had no place to go.
It was, I believe, a Friday night, was it not?
Yeah.
And we had till midnight, and I think we were just still packing a couple of odds and ends, a few last minute things, as we normally would do. When we make a move, we always get the coffee pot and the coffee and that kind of thing last, and then that way it's in the what we call the last box, and then we always know where our coffee is because that's the first box that we end up opening usually, right? But anyway, we had our van completely packed with camping gear because we had nowhere really to go. We had to be out of our house at a certain time. And so we decided, since it was summer, we were used to camping anyway and recording out in the bush. We would take an opportunity and we would go down some back roads and set up camp and do some recording and try to chill a little bit, right?
So, and with that, there's a certain amount of freedom, right? I can go anywhere I want. I can do whatever I want. Doesn't matter. Like, you know what? Reality doesn't always dish it out that way. We didn't have any schedules. We didn't have any commitments.
Nothing was tying us down. It was
Nothing.
complete freedom.
I was free from work. No more corporate life. That was such a stress relief. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm sure a lot of people know what I'm talking about when that is gone.
Yeah.
We were free, but we couldn't just go take off. Like, we couldn't just go travel or go record somewhere else in another province. We had to stick around to deal with these legalities with the seller and get title to this property as soon as we can.
Absolutely.
Because we're at a time of year where if we didn't get under a roof, where are we going to be for the winter?
You got to get roofed in before the snow flies, right?
Okay, so then it became the options. Okay, we were living in our van. Now, living in your van is nice when you're camping, and like when we were doing the recordings, we take off the recordings, we live in our van for a week or whatever. You know, that's okay. But when there's no place to go home,
and 3 weeks turns into 4 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks turned into 5 weeks in that van. August had turned into September. Yeah. And we were getting toward mid-September. And then finally, that's when we were dealing with the lawyer.
And now trying to get everything done to get title of the property. And professionally, that was just really frustrating, knowing that how they should have been able to get it all done, and they didn't. They had dropped the ball on us. Anyways, we got that all sorted out, but still the title wasn't going to be transferred until the middle of October. So we had like a month of weather, and that's when our seasons start changing. So you could have anything from rain to frost to snow to like just...
It was hunting season.
Yeah.
And certain people are just simply not available during hunting season. And certain offices literally closed down because of hunting season.
As time went on and we were trying to figure out what to do, we thought we're going to have to build a cabin. So we had to manage living in the van. We weren't prepared to live in our van. We were prepared to camp in our van.
Right.
There's a big difference between living in your van and camping in your van. A lot of things that need to be done. Oh, I do want to mention, we did have a place to go live. Our son and his girlfriend offered us their spare bedroom and their house, but logistically to us it just didn't seem to match. We loved them and we wanted to continue loving them. They had a tiny house, a small house.
Just didn't want to intrude.
Yeah.
We just wanted to take possession of this property so that we could begin putting some roots down, something, right? It got so cold at nights in that van. It was below freezing, and I was getting claustrophobic.
Well, yeah. Well, I think claustrophobic and worried that we can't stay in the van.
I think the stress factor was actually causing like anxiety. You feel like your hands are tied and yet you've got nowhere to go and can't move things forward.
Yeah.
Right?
We we thought, forget about renting. A neighbor offered us his RV. He said, I'll drive it up to the property and leave it there for you. And it was an older RV. It wasn't heated. It didn't have a working stove, but it
It
was
was
a
bigger than the van.
yeah.
As it turned out, it wasn't any warmer though.
No.
So
It was a good stepping stone in that we had space, but then heating it, we didn't freeze, but we weren't
we
as
almost
comfortable.
froze.
We almost froze. Yeah.
It's another video.
Having the RV and the use of the RV helped us get a little bit more comfortable while waiting for the deed to get registered.
We had been staying in the RV for several weeks, and it started getting so cold at night that we were kind of struggling a little bit with those freezing cold temperatures. But it just became unmanageable, and that's when I decided that enough is enough. It's going to be snowing anytime now. It was toward the end of October, and I decided let's get a cabin. Let's just build a small cabin, big enough that the two of us can get in there. We'll get some of our stuff in there. We'll get it heated, and we'll get through the winter. That was the plan, because then by spring we would have our homestead built, and then we could make a transition from there. But we would be on our own land.
And to me, that was really significant, being on our own land. The cabin was really significant in the transforming over to this property, because it made it possible for us to do that. It took some of our budget for doing other things with the house, with the homestead.
And once we built the cabin, because it got so cold, we ended up a lot of our stuff. We, of course, want to get it here with us. There was all kinds of little things that we needed, and boy, that was living in the 12 by 16 cabin all winter long for 4 months. Yeah, it was tight. Yeah.
That was a lot of challenges, eh? Moving onto this property, there was way more challenges than I thought there would be. Because of the delay with the realtor, any of the contractors that we already had lined up to do the work for us, well, they went on to do other jobs. So we didn't have them available to do the work of getting the homestead built and getting all that work done and getting the septic and so forth.
Before
So
the snow flies.
we were so lucky, because we had gotten in contact with a few contractors who had a little bit of time at the end of the season that they fit us in. Things that we didn't know when we were moving from the last place to this place that I wish I had been aware of. So I didn't realize that in our province that medical clinics are set up regionally.
We had to give up our family doctor.
Which was huge. I didn't even think of that. I thought, well, he's my doctor. I could keep going to see him, right? Well, no, they made, as soon as we gave them our change of mailing address, they made us aware of this policy.
I didn't know. It was a surprise to me too. That our previous doctor, that man saved my life.
Yeah, and we really liked that doctor. However, we did get a good doctor. We lucked out there too, right? We were lucky. We did get into the local clinic.
He's good. Yeah,
and he's good, and so that worked out.
Basically, what she gave up there was the convenience of having the closeness and availability of a convenience store, the grocery store, the doctor's offices, all that kind of a thing at, within a few minutes, of just a short bit of travel time. That was it. But so out in the remote wilderness, that is something that you basically trade those conveniences for the solitude and the tranquility and the remoteness of it. So after moving on to the property, it was an eye-opener in many ways. In hindsight, one of the things that I guess I regret not doing, and that was not preparing enough for the lifestyle that we were about to lead. I thought I was in pretty good shape at the time. A few injuries and whatnot, that would come back to haunt me now and then. But I thought I was in pretty good shape. As it turned out, I had actually injured my back after a couple months of being here on the property. It was the first spring and moving stuff. And so that set me back a year, and that it put a real canker into the works. But I wished I had done more exercise, back exercises, so that I was more prepared for living on the land here. And there was a lot of lifting and hauling, and it was kind of a never-ending struggle for many months. But we were nowhere near prepared for the stuff that we didn't even think of along the way. There's people that you meet, there's contractors you deal with, businesses you deal with, and there's little hurdles and whatnot that we just unforeseen. And scheduling hunting season, right? Uh, as time went on, we were continually adjusting our finances, adjusting the numbers as circumstances changed and quotes changed. Of course, things, the overall bottom line, it didn't go down. The bottom line always went up. We were thinking 20% overage would be a good plan. And in hindsight, 30% would be better. There was a few things we gave up. We gave up the partying, gave up a lot of socializing. We gave up the closeness with our families and our friends, not being able to see them as often. So it made those times that much more special. Restaurant and movie nights, that went out the door, and in exchange for homemade pizza and watching a ripping campfire. However, in that process of moving from point A to point B, not only did we give things up, but we also gained a lot. We gained a lot of experience. We gained perspective. We gained a lot of knowledge, the ability to be patient, to take each day as it comes and not stress over the small stuff. We also learned that after every rainstorm, the sun will eventually come out. What else did we gain? Rolling hills, pure nature, pristine sunrises and sunsets, beautiful calm lakes, listening to the crickets, the birds, the loons, and wildlife. We gained tranquility, peace, solitude, and contentment. These are things that are immeasurable and you can't put a price on, although there may be a price you pay in order to acquire those things. And there may be things that we give up along the way, but many things can be gained without realizing what's to come. We gained our own self-determination. We gained how we wanted to live our lifestyle, choosing what we wanted and focusing on what we needed. Living in the city, there were days that I just wanted to pack it in. I felt like we were working so hard and getting nowhere fast. And it seemed like the harder that we worked, we were just digging a hole. And to work even harder, it seemed like we were just digging a bigger hole. And we felt we wanted a way out. We needed an escape plan. And that's when the big question became, how? And by asking ourselves the how do we do this? How is this going to come to pass? How is this going to come into being? In the asking of that question, we set in motion, whether it was subconsciously while we were sleeping at night, but that question was always there. So we planned accordingly. We didn't know how we were going to get there, but we started to make plans and we learned along the way. And today, 9 years later, after moving on to this 40 acres in the wilderness, here we are, and we're quite comfortable. we're very happy, and we're content. Well, that's all for this one. I think we've covered a lot of territory. I appreciate you tagging along, and hopefully some of what we've shared with you today has been helpful. Please subscribe, hit that like button if you will, and we shall see you next time right here on Cabin Life. I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
Over and out.
Take care.